I went to that Laserlight show.
And you were headbanging real hard?
I'm kidding.
No, it was at a planetarium, and the first seats we chose were like a little low, so I was like looking up the whole time.
Get out.
But we're like, you're like lying down the whole time.
Oh,
You know what
get
I'm talking
out,
about?
really? So how's your neck hurt if you're just lying down?
I don't know. I think maybe, why would my neck hurt?
Wait, where did you go to? A planetarium?
Yeah, at Liberty Science Center.
Oh, when you look up at the sky. And
Yeah, so they have a laser light show. It's apparently the biggest planetarium in the Western Hemisphere.
Get out.
That's what they said. I was like, I don't know about that.
What,
So
It was
not
pretty.
that
It was
big.
pretty big though. But yeah, it was like a Led Zeppelin laser light show, and then immediately after was like a different show, but it was a Pink Floyd laser light show, and they played like all Dark Side of the Moon. And
So you
it was
lay
nice.
down?
Yeah, you're just kind of like in a seat that's kind of inclined.
Oh, okay.
And it does the whole time.
Oh, okay.
How was it?
It was pretty okay.
Yeah.
The Led Zeppelin one was kind of lamer, and the Pink Floyd one was really good though. But I think because the Led Zeppelin was just a bunch of songs plus like the stuff happening,
Yeah.
whereas Pink Floyd was like the whole Dark Side of the Moon album, and then they played another song at the end. I already forgot which one it was. It was from a different album. Oh, I think it was not Wearing a Fly. It was some like random song that was like, "You want one more?" I was like, okay. The DJ was too
Excited?
like he was in the band. I was like, I want you guys to clap for this one.
It's like, dude, this is fucking recording it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, let's not forget the names. I already screwed it up, but...
Oh, yeah, so to reiterate.
Yeah,
Eric, Tony, Eric,
James.
James.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all know each other.
Yeah. You know who we are.
So, did you go... Who did you go with?
Now he's got to make up a
I
bunch
gotta
of
make a
names.
fake name. Yeah.
Moesha?
Wait,
No, she wasn't there. It was
was Carlstad there?
Carl.
You know. Carl. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like trying to piece shit together.
What's okay? Friends that I don't know, I assume, right?
Yeah,
it's okay.
I mean, unless you ran into them.
Yeah.
But one was like, it was the guy I smoke weed with all the time, and the other one is Moesha's friend
Oh, okay.
that I've mentioned
Oh, okay.
before.
Got it. I know who those people are.
Okay. That's the best way to explain it.
How come Moesha didn't come?
She wasn't invited.
Oh, wow.
Oh, shit.
I mean, why would she go to a Led Zeppelin / Pink
So-
Floyd Laser White show?
What songs did they play for Zeppelin?
They opened with. They played No Quarter. They played Immigrant Song, Kashmir.
Those sound like good laser light songs.
Stairway to Heaven, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Stairway to Heaven.
Going to California.
No.
You like that one?
I like that one. I actually really like that song.
Yeah.
At first I didn't, but it's grown on me.
I didn't know you knew that much Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, I had all their albums pretty much. But I listened to a lot of them, but I never really became a super fan of Led Zeppelin. Some songs I thought were really awesome, you know?
Yeah.
But I never became so into them.
Right.
But I thought they were great, but for some reason I didn't fully connect.
Yeah. But you're familiar with like a lot of what they've done.
Yeah, I know a lot of their songs.
Oh, okay.
What's the one that's like ba 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 da da boom da da ba da da boom ba boom ba.
The
Ocean Song.
The Ocean.
Trampled
they play that.
Underfoot is a good song.
That's a really good song.
Yeah. I think a band ripped it off. What's that band called? There was a song called Paralyzer, like in the late 2000s.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking
And
about.
it's exactly the same thing. Or not exactly, but it's obviously taken from that. But then again, the thing about Led Zeppelin too, you know, like there was that scandal that they stole so much music.
Yeah.
And that kind of made it harder to be into them too.
Did that really spoil the whole experience once you knew that they had just basically ripped off all
It
those...
definitely taints it.
Yeah,
Because they're like gods.
Yeah,
And they're
yeah.
like, no, they're humans.
Yeah, that's
so-
true. That's true.
Yeah, that made it worse. But even before that, I never really super connected, you know.
Oh, okay.
But I thought the Stairway to Heaven solo was pretty much the coolest thing ever, you know.
Yeah. You're not alone in that sentiment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate that song in the sense. I don't hate Stairway to Heaven. I've just heard it like too many
Yeah, how
times.
it's played out to where.
Yeah.
So I haven't listened to that song in years, but it was nice hearing it in a laser light scenario. Especially because like the sound system's really great.
I
So
bet.
half the fun to me is like re-listening to these songs that I already know, but hearing them in a different quality.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's the sound system itself or like the space it's in. But whatever combination, I felt I could hear things a little bit differently, which
Right.
was nice. And I was getting and obviously I was like super stoned. So yeah, I saw two dudes from Xenophile there. They were like they
shit.
came in.
Did they recognize you?
No, because they came for the Pink Floyd Ways of White show, so we were already seated.
Oh, okay.
So I recognized the dude because he had like the jawline guy, the singer.
Yeah, the lead
Because he
singer.
has like a real strong
yeah,
jawline.
he's got a face.
I was like, that guy.
got
Actually,
a face.
I noticed like the ratty guy that has like the heads, his side head shaven a little bit. It doesn't have it. It was like the other guy basically that
Right,
was
right.
like big. But I was like, he looks familiar. And then I saw a strong jawline guy. I was like, oh, it's fucking these two dudes.
the Geddy Lee dude.
And then I was telling Moesha story because she was at the show too.
Yeah.
I was like, these are the guys I was talking about. But yeah, they were there. What the fuck was I trying to make? Anyway, they played Whole Lot of Love.
Oh yeah, no.
And then, man, what the fuck did they open
Heartbreaker.
with?
Heartbreaker.
Yeah. No, they played Black Dog. They didn't play Heartbreaker.
Oh,
Black
Black
Dog
Dog
was
is
cool.
good too.
But, they played a lot of songs actually. But it was cool.
Was it a very long show? Sorry.
No, it was
like,
about an hour.
Oh, okay.
for Zeppelin on
A
it.
bit less for both of them. No, on each because they're
Oh,
separate. They were
that's not
separate
much.
shows.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
They were
you
just
did,
back to back.
did you pay for? You had to
Yeah,
pay,
we paid for both,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Oh wow.
How much was it, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't know, like $12 or something.
Oh really?
Really?
Cheap.
Yeah.
That's like going to a fucking movie.
Yeah,
That's
cheaper
awesome.
than the movie.
Yeah, it's true.
That was a bit cooler, honestly.
Yeah.
Good
How
movie.
often do they do that shit?
I don't know, but they did it 2 days in a row. So Saturday they also had the same 2 shows back to back.
That sounds pretty good. I'm gonna look.
But they do stuff for adults like all the time.
You were telling me about
allegedly.
LSC
Completely-
After Dark.
Yeah, they do like on
What's that?
Thursdays they'll have like crazy parties. They'll
Really?
host like parties there.
Like adult parties. No, well,
Yeah,
not sex
adult-
parties, right?
Adult party? No,
Sorry to
it's not
disappoint
not
you.
that kind of science center.
Yeah. Love science.
Oh, like what kind of party would be an adult party? They like
I guess like drinking. Like
Yeah,
the
they have
bar.
alcohol and they'll have it'll be themed and
Oh, okay.
they'll have things.
So it's basically like a club on those nights.
Yeah, I don't know. They do it on Thursdays though, but I guess it's aimed towards the college crowd because a lot of college kids have Friday off.
Oh,
you,
I see.
You remember from college days? Everyone's always trying to get Fridays off.
True, true.
So you have a 3-day weekend.
I never had that, but okay.
Oh, you were working too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there was no. It was not like the stereotypical like
Yeah.
college experience for you.
Yeah, the weekend ends and the work begins. I mean, the weekday ends. Work week.
I didn't know that Liberty. Yeah, I always thought Liberty Science Center was kid stuff. I went there in 4th grade. I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah, same.
we all
something.
we all went.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of cool stuff, but it is like aimed towards children. But
Mhm.
you know, you have to, you know, there's this whole untapped market of population they could be,
That's right.
you know, getting into.
And now they are.
It's like you like science, I assume.
I love science.
Well, I love cool shit, and
Yeah.
science has a lot of cool shit. I don't like formulas. I don't like people like, oh, this is blah blah blah. Unless
Yeah.
they present it to me in like an entertaining manner, I'm not going to really.
Yeah, you
dig
like
it.
the entertaining version.
Yeah, I'm not going to read a science textbook.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is riveting because I
Yeah.
won't understand half of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm an idiot.
You need a lot of base knowledge, like anything else, to understand the deeper things.
Yeah.
Which obviously I have very little of too.
Who was that guy? Sean Carroll. He was
Yeah.
on Joe Rogan.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I gotta send you. You guys remember this week? I sent you a clip from the Royal Institute
Yeah.
of like the image of nothing. I wanted you to check out.
Yeah.
You guys should
The empty
also.
box.
Yes. That one, Sean Carroll, I'll send it to you. He does like a super, super interesting like lecture. It's like an hour and a half. And he just talks about like the nature of cosmology and like what we really know and how we have an understanding of like that we've hit like a kind of fundamental place and that we're not going to discover like anything beyond this or something like that.
Oh, really?
He puts the lecture is really great because it's not like science. Like he weaves in like a lot of important like moral issues and different topics like that and the nature of understanding and stuff like that. It's such a cool talk.
Where he says we can't get past a certain level, or that there is no other level.
I think what he's trying to say, if I remember correctly, is that like we know that there are no more fundamental particles that that make up our everyday reality.
Oh, how could he know that though?
That's he does go on to say like, you know, that sounds like hubris and everything, but he says that the reason, I forget the actual reason why he says they know that.
You didn't watch the video, did you?
I
No.
did. I listened to it like 2 times. It's just there's so much stuff in
No,
it.
I know. I guess
Um,
complicated stuff. It's hard to
Yeah,
remember.
yeah. But I forget what his point is about
His
that.
point is there's only so much you can measure. Live your life.
No, it's not that. But that's a really good channel, the Royal Institute. That's been my new painting. I was going really hard on like the Terrence McKenna stuff, and I was like, all right, let's kind of straighten up and
Let's go back to real science.
yeah, I was like, get a little crazy.
You gotta balance that shit out.
Yeah.
But I've been listening to a lot of Dan Dennett stuff too.
Oh yeah, I know him.
Yeah, I figured you would. He's pretty cool. He's got some good ideas.
I find
A lot of
them.
physics shit too.
Yeah, I haven't gotten that much into the physics things he says, but yeah, the other stuff he said I thought was interesting, but I found him to be very boring.
Uh-huh.
But maybe he has other things that's more interesting. You know, I think like I don't know. There's intellectuals who are kind of like we're saying. Some of them are really good at making it entertaining. I think some of them are so, at times at least, so into what they do that they don't realize that most people have no idea what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So when they talk, they just talk on their levels, you know?
Right.
So it's like, even though if I can understand it, it's hard to get into it because it's so convoluted and dry, you know?
I hear you.
But then again, I'm sure I can be some of that too at times.
Well, you don't give a lot of lectures.
Yeah,
though,
yeah. And my lectures are great.
I have the best lectures.
But yeah, I would say definitely check that channel out. But I know what you're saying, you know.
The Weinstein brothers, he was on Joe Rogan.
Yes, yeah.
So the other brother,
Weinstein.
it's Weinstein?
I think so. I think
Is
it's
that-
pronounced different than the rapey guy.
Wait, the rapist was,
Weinstein, isn't it?
or wasn't it Weinstein? Okay.
I
This
don't
is
know.
the problem. Nobody knows. But yeah,
Not
Brett
very
Weinstein or Weinstein, sorry, Brett. He's interesting too. And his brother is Eric Weinstein or Weinstein.
Oh, I saw him he was on the podcast too, right?
Yeah, so his brother is a mathematician apparently too. I think he kind of, although obviously he's very intelligent, but he, I think, is that kind of intellectual who talks on such high levels that it's almost hard to follow him here and there, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't make it as digestible. I think his brother is better at making things digestible.
And yeah, I think that does like account for, you know, like certain scientists like do play that role.
Yeah,
Researchers and
right.
scientists like Michio Kaku and
Oh, yeah.
Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's like they're people, and Bill Nye too. It's like they have a knack not just for the understanding of the content, but for making it deliverable to
Yeah.
people in one way or another, and that's kind of their niche, I think.
I thought Bill Nye wasn't a real
Yeah,
scientist.
he's not. He doesn't even have a PhD.
Yeah.
He doesn't?
No,
He
he has
was
a
from a
bachelor's degree.
sketch comedy show. That's
Get
where
the fuck out of here! Are you
he's from like a
serious?
Seattle sketch comedy
No
show.
But
fucking
he-
way.
he
That,
has
like Soundgarden was in. Yeah.
He has a bachelor's
Sorry.
degree. He has a,
That's alright. It's not that bad.
I
It's
know
like
you don't
Santa Claus.
I know you don't like Soundgarden.
No.
he has a bachelor's degree in engineering, which
Okay.
is good, but it's not really that impressive, and that you're certainly not a scientist, you know?
And he's kind of a dick too.
Yeah.
Is he?
And that, his new show is like shitty.
I haven't heard of it. But the thing I didn't like about him...
Bill Nye Dreams
Sorry.
exploding.
I'm sure he
Bill,
has...
Bill Nye killed the internet. I mean, the internet killed Bill Nye for me, so I'm just passing along the murder spree.
Oh, is that like,
Yeah.
did somebody say what I said about Bill Nye on the internet, and then somebody came out and was like, fuck that, and they posted a bunch of links,
Basically,
and they were
it was
like, this
just
guy's
like-
a piece of
It
shit.
was a whole like slew of like shit. And I was like, damn. I was like, well, that's true. Because I had seen his sketch comedy thing.
I didn't
Well, I
know he
hadn't
did
seen
that.
his. I'd seen it, like a clip of it, because of Soundgarden. Actually,
Okay.
I think it was that same show. Or was he a different show?
I don't know if he did that at all.
But I feel like I saw the sketch show, and he was like part of the. Like that was one of the shticks was Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Soundgarden, the band.
They were just a special musical guest.
Oh, but
Yeah,
on
but-
this particular
Yeah,
episode
yeah.
of the show?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
I might be like confusing two different events, but I'm pretty sure.
Wait, so
it's the...
Bill Nye hosted a sketch comedy show?
No, I think he was just part of the
his
the
show.
ensemble cast.
Oh, so he would appear
It was like
sometimes?
Mad TV, and he was one of the
Oh.
people on Mad TV.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me.
But yeah, I'm not to hate on him so much, but yeah, he's technically not a scientist. But yeah, you're right that he's a person who tries to popularize science. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't think one thing that I don't like about him is that that semi asshole guy Tucker Carlson, that conservative on Fox News. He's a younger guy, maybe 30s, maybe at this point late 30s.
Is he the guy that got punched?
No, he didn't get punched, but
I don't know who that is.
Okay.
Maybe if I saw him, I'd know about him.
he's kind of an asshole, but he's kind of cool too, and but he's
That's
conservative.
his personality. He's
He's
an
an-
asshole, but he's kind of cool too.
But he's I think his show is pretty interesting because he's pretty intense. So he goes in on people,
Oh, yeah?
He like pushes them, and
and
so
like a legitimate, like kind of
in a bit of
logical way, or
an,
is
and a
it
bit,
just...
it's a little, there's some assholeness there, but it's also he
just-
does raise legitimate questions.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, I'm like semi a fan of his. Semi, you know? But yeah, the thing, Bill Nye was on that show, and he was challenging Bill Nye on. Bill Nye was saying that climate change is a huge problem, you know, and like there's a climate crisis, and we have to change things, or basically we're all gonna die, you know. So, but then Tucker Carlson's like, "Can you please explain to me the science of climate change? Explain to me exactly what's going on." And Bill Nye just kept like giving vague answers. And Tucker Carlson's like, "Can you tell me exactly what's going on?" He was pressing him for the details, basically.
Yeah.
And Bill Nye really couldn't provide them, you know?
What is he
Because
saying?
he was more or less saying, you know, the scientists agree that climate change is a problem. We all know that if we don't do anything in X amount of years, there's going to be this problem. It's like, how do you know that? Like, what science, you know? Tell me the details. And he just, he couldn't. So, although obviously the Bill Nye fanboys defended him, but I think, although Tucker Carlson was kind of a dick about it, he was right that Bill Nye didn't really know what he's talking about, you know?
Or at least maybe he did, but he didn't produce the right facts and information at that point in time.
Yeah, but he was pressed enough. I feel like that would have been I guess maybe he got nervous or something.
Right.
But
Man, he's a TV personality.
yeah, honestly,
you
I
have to
think
be nervous on the show.
I think he just didn't know.
Oh.
And I'm sure I'm sure he's smart, you know, and he knows a lot about. He probably does know a lot about science, you know.
Yes.
But in that case, in that moment, like maybe he just went with the masses and he doesn't really know what he's talking about.
And also, it is like, I don't know, he probably through little design of his own, like now he's like strongly associated with the image of a scientist, you know.
Yeah.
Because he played one on TV, and now it's like that image is just stuck with him, and then he just doesn't go around like correcting people, saying like, I'm actually not like a scientist. He kind of like carries on.
I'm sure
that aura of being an authority.
Yeah, I don't know how he ended up being Bill Nye the Science Guy, or.
You said the sketch comedy show, right? I was like,
I mean, but somebody had to think of it.
Yeah, I don't know if it was him or somebody else who like christened him that, but I think like if you become
the Dubby Science Guy.
if he's becoming very famous from a scientist, he's gonna capitalize on this so much. Maybe he should have gotten a PhD, you know?
Yeah, maybe, right?
They should have Googled some shit.
Yeah.
Some diehard
Nah,
shit.
I feel like he's got to be like on top of it, you know?
I'm sure he knows a lot of things, yeah, but
I'm sure he knows things, but not the real reasons like a scientist would. Like a legit person who studies that, you could be like, why is climate change happening? Blah blah blah. And like, well, all these things are happening, and then the ozone layer, and then this, and then trees cutting down. And but, like you go, it's like you do it so much that shit just comes off the top of your head. Just like if you ask me some questions about work. Like, it would be, like, an automatic response. Like,
you would know the intimate details.
Yeah, it's like I could go and, like, dig down as far as you want because I'm well-versed in that.
Yeah,
exactly.
So if you're a Bill Nye Science Guy and I don't know if the topic was about climate change. So the whole thing was about climate change?
Yeah, he was in there specifically to talk about that.
Oh, so then that's fucked up then.
He should have been pretty prepared.
Yeah, you should know, like, what's going on, but he probably just thought he was gonna get by with dick swinging and name, you know, recognition. And
it's a pretty short, like 5-minute clip or something. I can send it to you. I'm sure you'll agree that clearly he doesn't know what he's talking about, but
I'll take your word for it.
Maybe to somebody more, maybe somebody who isn't, a lot of people who don't know about what it actually means to know something. I think maybe they would be like, yeah, you know, Bill Nye is right, you know, but. Clearly, he's not giving the details.
I mean, I still think he's right. I still think climate change is an issue.
Yeah.
But he just doesn't know the details about it.
Yeah,
and that's whack, you know?
Yeah. I don't know the details either, you know? Obviously, I've heard what we've all heard that most scientists agree that it's a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw once, I don't know if I mentioned this before, there was a legitimate climate change scientist, an actual scientist, a lady, who I believe was also on the Tucker Carlson show or some other show, and she was saying that it is true that climate change is a problem, this is according to her, but the thing is, why it's a problem is there's a lot of disagreement in the science community about that. Like, most scientists do agree that it's a problem, supposedly, but they don't agree as to why. And that specific detail, everybody just brushes off.
Wait, can I ask this question? When you say they don't know why it's a problem...
They don't agree as to why.
They don't agree as to why is a problem. What do you mean by that? They don't know what the consequences of climate change are actually going to be, so they don't know what they should worry about, or they don't know the causes?
They don't know the causes. So some scientists humans are largely to blame, you know. Somebody
Right.
else may say something along the lines of the Earth is naturally changing in this way, you know, or
Right.
the universe is changing in this way. Like they might say something like that, maybe, you know.
And I mean, you probably don't know all this, but is there a sort of consensus about, like, what's going to happen or no? Because, like, what I've heard is, like, you know, the
World
glaciers
doom.
melting, the Earth heats up, and then, you know, I've learned about some other things, like sea levels are going to rise,
Yeah.
gases will be released from ice, other biological, like, diseases. That was one thing I heard could be released from the ice, but I don't know if even that's true.
That part I don't know, but yeah,
That
but
seems real enough.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
You're-
You get an ancient piece of ice that hasn't been exposed, and you know, the simpler the organism, I think the easier it is to preserve in a block of ice.
Is that how it works?
Yeah. I mean, you can put a fly in an ice cube and
Resuscitate it.
then just thaw it out and it'll come back to life.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know
dude.
that. I wanna
There's
do that now.
there's a way.
Oh, good.
I looked this up, but there's a fucked up thing you could do. It's like you freeze the flies and you glue them to this kind of toothpick airplane thing, and they become like the wings, and then it's not. I haven't done it. I've seen.
Sure you haven't.
You know how the internet is.
Yeah.
We've all seen a lot of fucked up shit, but that's one of them. That you could freeze them. So many like.
Put them on the toothpick and then
They're like an airship.
So yeah, basically, but so many simple animals you can freeze basically and
wow.
resuscitate.
That's
Really?
interesting.
That's or insects. So
Yeah.
if you get down to cells and shit, and you know viruses,
They probably have that same.
So
that's
property.
the same kind of thing. So you
Yeah.
have this big block of ice that's been like, it basically a crystal prison for all these you know microbes and shit. Unthaw them, they spread in the water,
That's
and then
it, man.
that's it.
done.
That's it, man. It's
Oh.
like then there's you know they have to get to us, but it's still out there. It's
Yeah,
still
once-
spreading
once
one way
it
or
goes.
another through fish or through something. Or,
Yeah, I was wondering, like, that sounds counterintuitive if you tell me you can freeze an insect and it comes back to life. I would think no, right? Because I don't know what I'm talking about in those subjects.
Yeah.
But you know the reason why can't you do that with a human? Because there's those
I
movies.
think
or
we're
whatever.
too complicated.
Is it like that some part that is crucial can't survive? And
Yeah.
other,
I mean, if we're talking about like insect anatomy and physiology,
right.
it's like, yeah, they have a much simpler nervous system than we do, you know, and just their biology. I don't know. They're so unusual and so unlike us, you know, like exoskeleton, fucking exoskeleton.
Robots, bro.
And then it's like, I never even understood like the exoskeleton thing because it's like, okay, so the exoskeleton means that it's like their rigid structural body is on the outside, right? And then, so it's like, what is it? Just like hydraulic fluid on the inside that moves it around?
yeah, yeah.
Or how does it work?
It feels like that.
Yeah.
They're machines, bro. They're machines. I don't even know why anyone even talks about them. They're machines. They're alien machines.
There.
They're biomechanical life forms. It's like, how do we get a machine to be more efficient than it is? We'll add biomechanical or biological services to it. It could eat biological matter and fuel it. You know, it has a little give and take healing properties.
Yeah.
That's the perfect mergement.
There you go. Well,
Maybe.
look
I
to
don't
the
know. The fuck do I
insects
know?
for the cyborg.
Or at least like the exoskeleton thing. We could fuck people
But
up.
I was thinking about what we were just saying about, you know, Bill Nye and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's like a crucial issue now that a lot of people can make it, when they talk, they can make it sound like they really know what they're talking about, but they're really not saying anything.
Yeah, I do it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, at times I've even used that at work and stuff to make it seem like I'm on top of things, but really I have no clue what I'm talking about.
Bird, I've done that.
And it's just it's a shame because I don't know. And then I think about, you know, like the climate change. I would assume most people would say, yeah, it's a big problem, but if you ask them, they probably don't know anything.
Yes.
And I feel like that's pretty much the truth with everything. You know, like scientists even we respect or we like, or like Sean Carroll and stuff, or Lawrence Krauss or Sam Harris or whoever else. Even Jordan Peterson. You know, they say things along the lines of we have these experiments that we ran. That's why I think this. You know.
Yeah.
But you're just taking his word for it. You know, you didn't read the experiment. You don't know the procedures. You don't know the bias of the people who made it. So a lot of the time, even them, although I doubt they're doing things maliciously, they could be very wrong about things, and we just take their word for. We just take their word for what they're saying because we don't know how to do the science that they're supposedly doing, which they probably are doing the science, you know,
Right.
but we don't know where it could go wrong, and they're trying to make a point. So, you know, they could even those guys who are, seem to be reasonable people, they could even be lying. Sometimes on purpose, sometimes maybe genuinely by accident,
Or just have a kind of bias or
Yeah.
blind spot from their field or whatever,
Yeah,
their
so-
own personal character.
Like, we don't know, like, we really gotta just take people's word for things because we don't know anything,
Yeah.
Do you guys watch It's Always Sunny or
I have, yeah. I watched
I mean-
the first 4 seasons.
Do you know the episode where they're making like an argument and they talk about science and say, have you read? They're doing the science versus religion thing, and they basically bring up that same, or Mac does,
I don't think so. I don't
and
think
he's
so.
like, have you read any of these books? Have you done like the formula, blah blah blah?
Oh, okay.
And then he has like this bitch label and he slaps over like a scientist's face. He's like, "He's a bitch. And but it's basically, I thought that was funny
Exactly,
because it's
yeah.
such a ridiculous point, but he still has a point, and then you brought that point up as
Yeah.
well. It's like we do have faith
yeah.
in these people that they're kind of telling us the truth. 'Cause
Yeah.
we definitely aren't going to crunch the numbers and make sure
Yeah,
that
like,
shit. Just like every other experiment. USDA or whatever
Yeah.
says this is safe. You can inject yourself all full of this shit.
Yeah,
You're good
yeah,
to go,
yeah.
bro. It's like, thanks. Mysterious organization with no face.
yeah. I don't think, I'm not that cynical about it that I think people are generally using it for evil, but it is questionable, and it is just, no, I mean, there's enough resources there that you could educate yourself a lot more than we generally do, but pretty much no one does that,
Right.
So it's just like, well, this guy said this, so it must be true, or something. So that's I don't know. It's ridiculous in a way.
It is a little crazy, and here's where the Terrence McKenna comes in, because Terrence McKenna is always saying that, we have no idea what's actually going on, it's like a big kind of, illusion of science to like claim that they have like a full understanding, because then even if you get to like the limits of like science, like that you reach like this kind of like weird place where things aren't like known anymore,
Yeah.
It's like you reach the limit. It's like, well, we know there's this much, but we don't know how it's organized, and then there's 5 different theories about how this might work, but we don't really know. We haven't proved it.
That reminds me, you've seen, I'm sure you have, you've seen Eddie Bravo on Joe Rogan?
Yeah.
Not the most recent one. I've seen him on the show
But
before.
he's kind of a flat earther, kind of, it seems.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Sort of, right?
Damn.
He seems like, he kind of says like, well, I don't know, but he clearly constantly defends it, so...
You gotta look into it.
Oh,
He's a very conspiracy theory guy.
I
don't think it's just flat Earth.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just like literally anything. He doesn't trust anybody. All those like shootings, it's all like false flag stuff.
Yeah. He's like a mini
All that
Alex
stuff.
Jones.
wow.
Basically.
Oh yeah, and he was on the podcast.
Yeah,
about it. That's
yeah.
why he was so excited to be
Yeah, that's probably his idea to.
Yeah, that was his dream.
Please.
But yeah, I think
Okay,
like
come
even
on
that,
the
like
show.
that's a good example of flat Earth. Obviously, sounds ridiculous, To most people would be like, if you claim that, I think most people would think you lost your mind or something,
Yeah.
But really, if you ask people for the details, I don't think most people could tell you the reason as to prove. I don't think most people could prove to you that the Earth is round. I don't
Right.
think they have the slightest clue as to how that gets
So,
proven.
like-
We got airplanes now, though. It's like I've seen the curvature of the Earth.
yeah.
Or if you say like
I've seen it.
like GPS satellites and things like that, like those things. But then this
Yeah, but explain it to me
yeah,
in detail.
exactly. It's like, oh, how do they do it? Well, it's like I guess like from yeah, couldn't do it. I just know that they use the satellites and
But it's like the moon is like a circle.
Right.
All the planets are circles, so we're gonna be the only disk in the universe.
But how do you know that the planets are circular?
Get a telescope. Look at that shit. I've seen it through a telescope.
Maybe they're discs.
I don't know. You see the rotation, so I don't know.
Now I sound like a flat earther, but I'm not. But I'm just saying the point
No,
that
it illustrates the point that
Yeah.
most people can't back up what they're saying. Most
Yeah.
people are like, we take everything for granted.
it's like that's ridiculous. Like it could, a lot of things. It could it very well is, or it could be ridiculous, but you certainly don't know.
Right, exactly. That's an important thing. And then one thing I was going to say, though, is that... I forgot what I was going to say.
You're also a flat earther.
Yeah, I just want you guys to know.
You're friends with Eddie Bravo.
Oh, what I was going to say is that, like, when it comes to certain scientific truths, though, I think, like, so much shit, like, works, that's why, like, there's no
Oh
question.
yes.
You know, so it's like, obviously, it's like, we don't, like, you have electricity in your house, It's
Right,
like,
right.
you don't know how electricity or electromagnetism works.
But your light turns
But it's
on.
clear that somebody does, because there's
Yeah.
all this shit that
like
works.
Wi-Fi and TV signals.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's a
so
good point,
it's
yeah.
like, okay, that's a pretty good proof of concept for a lot of those things. you know? So
that's a good point.
that's why we don't think about it. I think it's like when things aren't working, then we start to think about them more, and that's why we just accept it. We don't need to understand it because that heavy lifting has been done by people who are like way smarter and technically capable than us. So
I think that's one issue though, because there's obviously a lot of things work, so that's where the trust for the scientific community comes from it.
yeah,
But at the same time, that doesn't mean all things are how they're saying that they are.
Yeah.
So there's a distance there that people can collapse because they don't understand things,
Right.
including myself.
yeah,
So that leaves room for people just lying, or accidentally misleading you, even, because
Right.
I don't think scientists are generally trying to lie to people.
No.
I would hope at least. But then again, so that could be it. But there's arguments against that, because I mentioned once before when I was in college, my biology professor told me that he was doing research in Colombia, and they literally made stuff up. They made up results because that's what that was a plan. They wanted to prove a certain something, so they just made up what they wanted to prove for their own benefit. And why would he lie to me about that? Now, how much does that happen? Like you're saying, a lot
All
of
the
things.
time.
you think, right?
Yeah, all the time. literally.
Like a lot of things work, so a lot of the time they're not lying, obviously, but sometimes they are lying. And even in Colombia, I think I mentioned this to you before, right? Even in Colombia, they're doing that, or they have done that. So it does leave some room at least for BS.
Yeah, think about the funding too, because it's not empty, like mysterious funding. It's like, hey, scientists, let's go prove things. Just figure stuff out. Like, it's not like an empty check. It's like, hey, figure out why this plant does this.
Right.
And it's like, well, all the results are saying no, but this one weird result is saying yes, so let's go off that and try to, spin it to make it work. you know? Because they're being paid to research that effect. They're trying to find that effect,
And moreover, it's like you can prove something, like you're saying. It's like you could prove there's evidence of something that's happening, but that might not explain the whole phenomenon too. And then you kind of just cherry pick that result, kind of like you're saying, where it's like, oh, okay, well, look, we know that this is happening here, so therefore, that gets compartmentalized as the whole scientific truth. But that's not the whole scientific truth. There's other things, other factors that are important to that. And then that's a whole another problem with the way that science gets reported to lay people, because it's like Reddit is good at calling this out, but it's like, and whenever there's a scientific breakthrough, it's like you have the breakthrough, and then the headline article is physicists can do something about researching time. Yeah, exactly. And then the article will be time travel is possible, physicists say, or something like that. And it's like, well, physicists aren't really saying that. They're kind of maybe saying something that's a little more relaxed, and then the media is just hyping that shit up because, like you're saying, everyone is motivated by whatever their motivation is, and just for the scientists, it could be getting that research funding to keep flowing in, and for the media people, it's about getting eyes on the page or on the screen or whatever. So everyone's kind of beholden to their nature in that way, So we can't be truly empirical. Well, we can be, but it's very difficult.
Right.
Like Jordan B. Peterson has said that too. He's like, most scientists don't behave like scientists, because it's hard to do. It's an unnatural human.
It's crazy. Can't trust anybody.
Even Sean Carroll, he said in the Joe Rogan podcast when he was on, he was saying that if you get a PhD in, I think what he did, which was physics, if you get a PhD in physics, let's say, you have a 25% chance or 20 to 25% chance or so of actually getting to do that for a living, of becoming a successful scientist. And that's pretty low, It's not as bad as an artist, but...
It sounds pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I was 25. I was like...
But it's still pretty low, as opposed to if you major in computer science, you're pretty much definitely getting a job,
That's a multiple choice question.
Yeah, so... So I was thinking, because of that, I'm sure they have to get in line in many ways, They have to play whatever game to a very significant degree, and that leaves a lot of room for bias, too,
Yeah. It's always the problem, It's like the structure that these things are embedded in it has a mind of its own, has a will of its own that it wants to.
You got to mold yourself to fit on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No odd bits, please.
That's my big issue I have.
Playing grids again.
All your bits.
In existence, yeah. It's just
I got odd bits. Yo, speaking of weird unscientific bullshit, so I had a friend post something on Facebook, and it was it's I forgot what the headline was, but it was like one of those sensationalist headlines. It was
Yeah.
like, how I drilled a hole into my head to be high all the time.
Okay.
I'm like, what? So I went to read it. Yeah, I was like, this is bullshit. But it was real. It was this guy in the 60s during like the LSD craze. He was like a smart dude, and then he just dropped out of everything. He was about to get like whatever the English version of like the highest like lawyer thing is. He was about to like take the test, and he's like, fuck this, I'm a hippie forever. From now on.
You're going to be what?
What's that?
I'm going to be what forever?
A hippie.
Oh, okay.
Because this was the 60s during the height of the.
Okay.
I guess he was a beatnik first, and then he became a hippie when beatniks got beat. And then, so he moved to like Spain and was like doing drugs and stuff. And he met some like Dutch guy who talked about, oh man, I forgot what the fucking thing is called. But it's like you make a hole in your head. And there was a theory, I forgot. He was saying the brain, like up until you're 21, still isn't like, or the skull isn't fully like formed from 18 to 21 is like the last time. And it gets like air in it or something, or your brain gets like a bit of air, which like increases the circulation or something like that. And it's what gives you like that spontaneity and the creativeness. And he says when you take LSD, it's a vasoconstrictor or something, but it does something with the blood flow as well, which is what gets you in that state. So he was trying to get into that state permanently, and he heard about like this thing you do. You basically just like make a hole in your skull, like, and that's about it.
And it's like a little airflow, and then that helps keep you high all the time.
Yeah, so he did it to himself. He failed like a few times with like a chisel and stuff.
A few times.
And then, and
Oh
then the last time he did it with a power drill.
Success.
And he's like, you could tell it was successful because it would go hard and then all of a sudden go about an inch in, and it's like, oh, that's it. So he did that, and he said the whole thing took like 30 minutes. And he said it's like when you do it, you hear like a lot of bubbly sound and like whooshy bits. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
That's insane.
And then,
but
this is the thing that it healed over kind of, and it's still there. But like the reporter that was interviewing him said, he or she couldn't even see the hole. Like you didn't know. Like they saw like the indentation from the failed one, but they didn't see the actual one. I guess like it gets covered up. It's where the third eye is, basically, more or less. What the fuck is it called, man? I can't remember it.
But it worked?
Yeah, so they were talking about the guy and how he's like in his 60s or 70s now or whatever. But he's like the way they described him. I don't know if you think it's a girl. The way they described him was for his age he was like way better and more like active and like there than most. People like even way younger than him.
So he was semi-tripping all the time?
So it's not, he said, okay, so after he did it, he was like, oh man, I feel kind of dizzy and stuff. And
Yeah, because my brain is bleeding.
yeah, and he said there was a bit of bleed. And he made sure like to not get it infected. He's like, this is going to be like the biggest problem, like to not get it infected. And then he did that. And he said he woke up in the morning, like he felt really good. And then he kept feeling good. And he's like, oh, this is it. It's not like you're high. It's like you feel like great. And it's just like this good feeling you get all the time kind of thing. So where's the science in that? Where are the research papers like proving that?
Well, I don't know.
That kind of stuff.
I don't know how many people have like tried that.
Yeah. I think there's a
Small
few
pool
people.
of
Like,
participants
I think
in
his
that.
wife did it too, and then the guy he was talking to like had it done.
So basically it improved his mood. Like, so he's constantly in a good mood?
Yeah, so I think it's that, and he has like he feels like fresh all the time.
Maybe I need that.
Yeah, I was like, I came into it like, what the fuck? To like, maybe I wouldn't be so bad getting
Yeah. If it was done in like a nice clinical way where you go in for a procedure.
He was saying he doesn't recommend anyone to do it to themselves.
No.
Right.
And which
He's like, I did it, but
like,
don't do it.
Go see a doctor or something? Or he was becoming a doctor of
A
what?
lawyer.
He was like a lawyer.
Oh,
He probably just read some books and he was like...
But
Fucking power drill, man.
yeah, he used
That's
the
crazy.
power drill,
I
and
don't
he
think I could ever do
said
that.
he fucked up the power drill while he was doing it. So he hit the guy like his flat, flat downstairs. You know how they have flats. So he wrapped his head up and it was like bleeding or whatever, and then he went down there with a bloody like power drill. He was like, "Hey, it doesn't work. Can you fix it?" And the guy's like, "Oh." So he fixed it. That's me. Get back.
It's like drill's covered in blood.
How
He's
did you know
got blood
how?
all over his face. Like, you're not drilling into your skull, are you? Because I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to do that.
But did he do a lot of research to know how deep to go or something? Or how,
I didn't get like that far.
God damn.
He wrote a book. That's the reason why I had an interview, because originally he wrote a book, but it was only 500 pieces. Now they re-released it like all these years later.
what was his name? Or who is he?
Oh man, I think the book is called Borehole or something. I can find it because I know who posted it, so I could just go back and
Yeah,
find,
maybe
find her
later
post.
if
Yeah.
you want to show
Yeah,
us
if
that.
you guys remind me, I'll
Yeah,
link
you-
you to the
Yeah, that sounds
article.
interesting. Yeah,
That's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. It is literally unbelievable.
And he didn't have any health issues from it?
No.
Wow.
He said it's one of the oldest like procedures in life.
Really?
Yeah.
So I was going to ask that. There is like a...
Other people who've done it?
Tepitration or something like that. Tepitration. That seems like the word.
So
Something
many
like that.
people have done it, or relative.
Not for those reasons, but it's like if you're in war and you got like an arrow to your head, they go in and bore a hole and get all the pieces out, and they just leave you with a hole, you know. And that would you'd be like fine, you could live like forever still, you know.
Right.
It's
So
like,
as long as
apparently
you're-
that doesn't really fuck you up that bad.
His skull isn't even doing anything.
It makes you
Yeah.
immortal. But I'm saying, if you have
Just
a
take the
hole,
whole thing off.
and once it heals
Glass
over,
cap on him.
once it heals over, doesn't it stop working then? Because the air is not getting in anymore?
No, I think it's still there, so he could like pull it apart and like,
Oh.
show the hole. you
Oh,
know?
okay.
It's not like there's a big, you know, like a big ass. He's saying like I guess even a little bit of air is enough to like do something.
Yeah.
Because it's not like when you're a kid, your brain is exposed to air like that. You know, it's just the skull itself that is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I guess a little bit is enough to like oxidize it.
Yeah.
But I forgot how they figured out, because that Dutch guy was doing research on someone else's research, and that's how he kind of found out about it. And then that other English guy came in, and I gotta, you know, I
That's
kind
pretty
of read
interesting. I've never
it,
heard
but
about that.
I wasn't thinking about talking about it, so I didn't like
Yeah.
remember it like that,
He must have been really unhappy if he's willing to drill a hole into his head.
or just really curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Oh, he said the first few times he did it with the thing, he was on LSD.
Oh my
He
god.
did it?
Yeah, he's like, I think it would be better if I do it on that. But then the power drill one, he's like, I'm gonna be sober for this.
Yeah, dude, because you don't want to go too far. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, law is. I read what attorneys write a little bit. I don't have to read it that much, thankfully, but I read some of it just out of curiosity on some, loan document bullshit.
Mhm.
It's the driest thing in the universe. So, if I was an attorney, I think I would also drill holes into my head.
So I got a power drill in my car.
That's why I bring this up.
Light in the third eye.
Do you think you would ever do that?
I don't know. I guess the proponent, or I guess what he was trying to push was for research and people to look into this so it could be done in a good way. Because he was saying you could go to like places in like Mexico and pay $2,000 to do it, but he's like, I don't really trust that.
I'd rather do it
Stuff.
himself. The American way.
Well, he's saying now.
Oh, he's from England, though.
Yeah, but he's saying there's no like legit, like there's places that'll do it, but he doesn't trust it. It's like maybe they won't do a good job, or they don't give a fuck about it. They just want your money, basically.
Yeah.
They'll
Yeah, I
leave you
wouldn't
hanging.
trust it. I would have a hard time trusting an official hospital with that.
Yeah, let alone like a strange man from Mexico.
My father used to do stupid shit, not like that, but a much lesser version of that. He would go to a fake dentist to get his dental work done because it was cheaper. Some guys, like somewhere around here, like some guy's basement is doing dental work.
Get the fuck out of
doing
here.
dental work illegally. I guess he has some knowledge, but he's not really a dentist. So he would do
I've
stuff
done
like
that
that.
with a hairdresser.
Alright, yeah.
Yeah, so he would get dental work from some corrupt wannabe
That's
dentist.
so fucking
Yeah,
ridiculous.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
But think about it this way: it's like maybe Wait, was this back in Peru?
No, here.
Oh. That makes you feel a bit better, though, because maybe they came from another country, and it's like, I was a dentist there,
Yeah.
but over
No,
here,
but-
my license doesn't carry over.
No, I don't
but
think-
I still have the knowledge, you know?
Yeah, I don't think he was ever officially a dentist though. Yeah. But he has knowledge, I'm sure.
I'm trying to look on the bright side.
Yeah. You read a book.
He's like, I've read all the Wikipedia articles
Like, I have
on
teeth.
dentistry.
I could be a dentist. I know all about these.
I got some pliers, I got some dental floss.
That's
Good to
awful. Awful.
I think even pros fuck things up a lot, you know?
Yeah, I don't trust dentists at
Yeah.
all.
Neither do I. Honestly, I don't trust doctors in general because obviously they don't care.
Oh,
I
you
think-
want to hear some skeevy shit that you probably knew already?
Yeah, go
So,
ahead.
my friend that became a dentist, my boss's son,
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
so
He's evil.
he just started his own dentistry, like,
His own practice?
his own practice. So he was part of a different, like, practice, which was part of a union. So they had a meeting, and they're like, well, if they have this, try to, like, offer them this. And if they have that, like, offer them this. And so they try to, like, push, like, upsell on, like, dentist shit.
Like things you don't really need.
Yeah, and he's like, well, if they don't need it, like, I'm not going to offer them that.
Yeah.
Which is why he left. He didn't feel, like, good about it, which is like, oh, man. Like, that's
That's
good.
why he started his own practice.
Yeah, it's good to know that, some people have morals out there. I mean, he's a good guy because I've known him forever, so I would, even if he was part of the firm, I'd still go there.
So this was another practice that he was a part of at first?
Yeah, so this was, he was working there with, like, other people,
So they were advising him to basically give people things they don't need.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
And this is, like, dentists, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm sure that happens.
But you see it all the time.
Yeah,
It's like a
all the
network
time.
of referrals. It's just like, oh, go to this guy now. And it's like, of course, it's like they're all giving each other kickbacks and stuff like that. It's
Yeah,
like,
some people got jailed for that, like, not that long ago, for the exact same thing.
but generally, it's a kind of like, I don't think it's something that they're even trying to hide that much,
That even happened to me to some degree once. Not luckily it wasn't a tragic thing, but I went to an eye doctor in New York, and you know how they look deep into your eye with a very bright light.
Yeah.
And he's like, you have almost like a beauty mark in the back of your eye. You know how you have a spot like this, something like this. You know, he's like, you have a beauty mark or something along those lines, similar, the equivalent of that in the back of your eye.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, that depending on what it is, it could become cancer. So you should definitely go to a specialist and have him check it out. And he's like, I'll refer you to one. You should check this out, So so he basically said that, and then I just ignored it because I'm like, I don't know, I wasn't concerned with it for whatever reason. And then I went to another eye doctor around here, when my checkup, a few months later, a year later, when my other checkup was coming up, and he looked at it. I'm like, I told him, I'm like, this other eye doctor told me that I have something in the back of my eye that could become cancer. Could you look at it? And he looked at it, and he's like, oh yeah, I see that, but then she goes, there's like a 0.00001 that will ever become cancer because the type that you have is pretty much nothing. It's like the equivalent of having a beauty marker in your arm. So there's pretty much zero chance that it'll ever be a problem. Mm-hmm. So you definitely don't have to do anything about it, And so that's a very different thing to say to someone. One guy is like, you go see a specialist because you might get cancer.
Yeah.
And this lady is like, you're absolutely fine,
Yeah.
So it's very similar, There's just BS, And they say it calmly and they seem nice. They're like, you need this,
Yeah.
You really
Looking
need
out for
this.
you. Gus, I mean, Tony. I don't tell everyone this, but you have cancer in your eye. You gotta check it out.
It's BS. That ties into the other problem that we don't really, although a lot of things do work and are legitimate, we don't understand things. So like health stuff, you're not going to be able to find out, so you're kind of at their mercy.
I think when it comes down to it, though, it's like you will find out. Like if there's an issue that you discover that you have, you're going to begin like doing much more research on that. Then you're going to kind of like activate your scientific brain the best you can to get to the bottom of it.
I guess if you do that, you have a better shot. Yeah,
it's going to turn the light on.
Yeah, but you would have to get maybe multiple opinions,
Right, and you would do a lot of reading, I think, independently and try to understand, depending on who you are. Not everybody does this, but I feel as though once it becomes very pertinent to you, then you're going to really shine a light on it. And that's the thing. The real problem, I feel like, is like how much attention like does every element deserve, right? Because as far as our life is concerned, you can look at almost any one aspect and investigate it infinitely, But But we can't do that. There's not enough time or energy or attention. We would get bored if we attempted to do that.
And
so
also lack of resources, because we can't, like, you can't really find out.
I can't come into work today because I'm researching, physics.
Yeah, but you can't, it's really hard to get the very, very deep knowledge on how to do a surgery, let's say, like,
right.
You're not going to find that on the internet. You might, I'm sure there's some stuff, but you have to learn it from somebody who knows,
Yeah. So that's what kind of directed me to that, what I said before about, like, everything works, so we don't think about it, And this is also a kind of Petersonian idea of, like, things kind of disappear, like, as soon as they're on autopilot, like, we remove things from consciousness, which is a good process. We're continually trying to do that. We're continually trying to move heavy lifting, the intellectual heavy lifting, out of, like, our consciousness so that we could do less of that. Our body always is trying to routinize and reduce things to an unconscious level, which is something that's been interesting me a lot lately, is, like, the different conscious states. And, like, that's an important thing. Like, I was talking to my wife, and she was saying, like, how it's, like, the dishes, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, do you have a routine for doing the dishes, It's like, if you have a sequence for doing the dishes, then your brain can properly, like, routinize it, You
don't have to think about it that
right.
much.
And then that way it's like the labor of it gets, like, offloaded.
That is really interesting, because that can be really useful, obviously.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it can be bad when you make a routine of something in the wrong way.
Right. Which happens all the time. There was another lecture that I watched, and it said that and I can totally agree with that just based on intuition, that, like, a majority of our action and thinking takes place at, like, an unconscious level. It's like we don't actually think much about most of what we're doing at any given point in time. And I've been researching, just listening to lectures really about consciousness a lot lately. And, how they've been looking at different, how they identify different states of consciousness in the human mind. And they're characterized by that. Like, when you're doing something off of routine versus, like, really paying attention and trying to figure it out, versus doing something that has, like, high stakes. Like, they were talking about, like, this dude's talking about, like, mountain climbing and stuff like that. It's like certain tasks are so demanding and engaging in an immediate way that it's like they have a completely different consciousness profile in your brain. And because, like, now thinking about, and this is why, like, vocabulary and knowledge is so important, because once you get a couple of words that you can box concepts up with, you can start thinking about things in a more sophisticated way. It's like the beginning of mathematics is being able to put boundaries around things and move them around, But until you have the concept, you don't have a limit on it, and you can't really think about it. So anyway, now knowing, like, okay, here are the conscious states, I've been trying to more frequently, like, pay attention to my own state of consciousness and ask myself, like, what's the nature of my current state of consciousness? Like, am I on autopilot? Am I fully engaged? Am I daydreaming? And, like, just going back and looking, like, how is my consciousness behaving at any given point in time, and monitoring it and trying to be deliberate with shifting it. It's like, oh, okay, I'm, like, kind of thinking too hard right now when I could be thinking less and it would be better. Or I'm not thinking at all right now. I'm not, like, attending properly. I'll attend more. And so it's like, now it's like I'm developing, like, a different relationship with my own mind. It's, like, apart from me.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that I forgot how it works, but let's say you have a thought, or my words that are coming out right now, it's already been thought, like, way before I thought about thinking it.
Yeah.
And if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it almost seems like being alive is kind of like a ride, and you're at the whim of your consciousness because it's already been pre-decided for you.
Yeah.
So you can kind of, like, just relax.
Yeah.
Because everything's been done already, and you're just kind of receiving the output.
Yeah.
Because you're, like, a second delay or whatever. Which is kind of, like, weird.
Yes, that is that is definitely. I think that's true, and we've touched on that before. I think.
Yeah.
And that is bizarre, but it is true. Yeah. And I think about both of those things. What you're saying too. I've been thinking that too at work, or sometimes I feel, like, really tense or something, or nervous, and I analyze, like, how I'm experiencing things, and it feels like, in this moment it doesn't make sense to be nervous, but then I feel nervous anyway. It's just sometimes it feels like maybe it is hints of, some like mental disturbance, or not maybe, definitely, 'cause, like, a lot of the time what is happening doesn't match how I feel about it,
Mm-hmm.
or like nothing is happening, or somebody's just talking to me, but I'll get, for some reason I'll start getting really nervous or something. It's just like, this doesn't add up, not all the time, but sometimes, because I'm just, let's say I don't feel like being at work, which happens all the time. All often, and then I don't want to be. So I think that's kind of part of it. Let's say I don't want to be somewhere, and then somebody presses me for something, So then the tension rises, So I'm not. I think sometimes I don't process it properly. So I could handle that better if I could just take it for what it is, And that could be applied for anything. And if you just take it as it is, as opposed to I add all these layers of, like we were saying a while ago, I add all these extra layers of tension because I think all about, well, I don't really want to be here. I might also be thinking about what is the point of this anyway. And then I might be also be thinking about, oh, this guy's an asshole. And then somebody comes up to me and tells me, can you please do this for me? So then I add all this crap to it, So it's just like, yeah. It's hard to break those things,
And to add to that, so this is why I feel like more and more, like the idea of like narrative becomes like really important, because like the more I learn about consciousness and memory too, it seems that we are always writing a story. We're always like producing a narrative, like articulated or not, that helps to like organize like our experience, And that is like a really important thing. And when one of these states of consciousness actually is like you defer back to like your narrative, That's like one of the particular states of consciousness. It's like where you're just like under the spell of the story that you're telling yourself.
Exactly, yeah.
And so one of the kind of consciousness reprogramming things is like when I am like attending to the present moment and I'm being myself, I just like try and be in the state of the optimal story that I want to tell myself, And so I actually consciously make an effort to think about myself as embedded in the story, in the narrative that I actually want, right? And I consider like my current situation as it is happening, but in like relationship to that larger, like broader narrative,
Yeah.
And so you already know the end to this narrative, basically, right? And you're kind of trying to put yourself on track to what would be happening right now in the story if that ending were to take place.
Very much like that. Very much like that.
Well, when this book is over, you're a rock star. So this is the point where you go and you play this show,
right?
Or this is obviously not true, but, but like that. That's what you mean.
Yeah, and then that's supposed to guide my attitudes and my decision making. Is that way that I'm setting myself up with this like fiction. But it's like this is the point. It's like it's all fiction.
Yeah, in a very real way.
Fiction. There's like there's a real element and a fictional element on top of that, right? And so it's like do you want to own the fictional element, or are you going to leave that to somebody else or just nothing, no one to decide, So it's like the idea is that that's part of your identity anyway. So just like take that and create something with that.
Yeah, that's I think crucial and very hard to do. Obviously, like anything, you can get better at it. And I think, we all have different toxic narratives. So I think I think a narrative that's hard for me to break, I question too much the value or, end game of things, Or it's hard for me to break the narrative. Life is mostly unpleasant, like that'll get to me somewhat often, I'll think like, oh, this moment sucks. And then I'll relate it to think about all the moments I have sucked, like, geez, life is mostly bad, So it's hard for me to break from that default, So I say that just to, I guess, share, but obviously it's probably, I've already shared that before, but the point I was going to ask you guys, what do you think are some things you tell yourselves that are, toxic that you have to rewrite in a way?
Oh, man. It's so funny you bring this up because I've been having like a pretty serious like existential crisis like the past 2 weeks, and I've been like trying to get to the bottom of it.
Let's fix it.
Trying to get to the bottom of this. That's why I actually reached out to Tony and I was like, I need to see a counselor. Because it's just like...
What kind of counselor?
Oh,
like
yeah.
A psychological... Yeah, like a counselor. Just like, I have impossibly like difficult questions to answer. I can't answer them.
What are some narratives that are toxic?
All right. And I just think like I have suicidal ideation more than a person should. but it's always in response to like
A bad moment.
a bad moment, right?
Right.
And it's catastrophizing. And I realized that like over the past week that like the reason I do this is because there's this sort of sick pleasure in it. Because like in my mind, like I'm ending my existence, and then like I take like refuge in this idea that I don't exist. And I realized that it's like I used to feel bad for myself for thinking this, like, oh, I'm so twisted and broken because I have suicidal ideation, you know, like I must be depressed or something. But then I realized it's even more sick and perverse than that, because it's like I'm in love with the idea of killing myself in my mind, because I get to hide from reality in that instant that I imagine myself dead.
Right. Yeah.
You get to escape. the
Right,
problem.
right.
Exactly.
Do you-
And that's what I'm doing. And it's like I'm being weak. I'm just like intentionally being weak. Like I'm worshiping like destruction in myself, you know, because it's easier. It's the same thing as like when I was drinking a lot. It was like if I destroy myself, I don't need to exist.
Does that happen when? Will that be triggered in you if something? Does it have to be of a certain level, like something very bad has to happen, and then you think that, or even something minor will make you think that?
Even minor things could sometimes do it.
So you think about this. You think about suicidal things often.
Yeah, depending, like, if I'm in a mood, it, like, pops up more, versus, like, if I'm in a very positive affect, then it won't happen.
But
if
it's
I'm-
only for bigger events, right? It's not like, oh, I can't do these paradiddles if I was dead.
No,
Yeah.
it's other things, you know. It will happen when it's, like, there's a problem that the answer is not immediately evident. I don't know what to do. And it's like, when I don't know what to
But
do,
you-
I just, like, I wish I was dead.
But you just said that it happens in minor things too, though.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but sometimes even a minor thing, you
Right.
don't know how to proceed, you know?
Yeah. So, how often would you say you feel this way? Would you say at least once a week, like 5 times a week?
Yeah, it could happen like, you know, a few times a day, you know, over...
So it happens every day,
Could be. But not necessarily.
but generally so.
On average, maybe, yeah, like a couple times a week.
Yeah, that is, you know, it is somewhat alarming, but like I was saying, you know, I have a similar thing. I don't think about suicide as much, but I do, you know, just obsess on the horrors of life too much, you know. I think like too intensely about how bad things are, or how much people have disappointed me. You know, I always default to that in a moment of frustration.
But this is what I want you to think about.
Yeah.
Because this was the unexpected, like, truth of that. Like,
Right.
is there some part of that, like, pathology that is actually, like, how do I put this? That you take pleasure in? Like,
Yes, there is. I think we have a similar thing, because I will think about suicide sometimes as well, you know? But although, even if I do think about suicide, or if I think about, like I'm saying, defaulting to, you know, the dark aspects of life and how people have let me down, blah, 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 or even my own failures, like there is a pleasure in that, because I think, you know, there is, in a sense, it's kind of like an out, similar to suicide, because it makes me feel like, well, I don't really have to do much because everything is shit anyway, like life sucks anyway, so who cares what I do or don't do, you know, who cares who I offend or don't offend, or like how good I am or how bad I am, because it's all bullshit anyway, life is shit, who cares, you know? So in a way, it is an escape in a way, it's like an excuse to say fuck it, you know? So it is like a weakness in that way, similar to you thinking about, well, I can just check out, you know?
I think it's a fantasy, and it's a dark, twisted fantasy, but it's a fantasy nonetheless. Just like if somebody buys a lottery ticket, they fantasize about winning millions and getting out of their problems.
Yeah.
Or you fantasize about being discovered on the street, and it's like, or you fantasize about this happening, and you fantasize about all these like escapes. You just have like a negative escape, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
But it's still an escape. It's a solution to your problem. Not the best solution, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's an immediate, final solution, which is very attractive for any problem. The immediate and final solution.
Right.
Look at Hitler. He was all about that final solution.
Yeah, but I was gonna ask you, James, that when you think about, like, when I have thoughts, think about suicide, it always comes down to, usually even if that comes up, I'll think this isn't a realistic thing. I would never really do that, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that, but do you think that? Or
Or
do you think, maybe I would do this?
I've been closer and farther at different points, you know.
Okay.
In general, I don't, like, I know that that's not a sensible solution to the problem, and I have, like, responsibilities that I could never, like, abandon. And I know it's not the way out, you know.
So what's another toxic narrative that you tell yourself other than thinking I'm just gonna check out?
I'm afraid I'm an egomaniac. I'm afraid that, like, I know I'm a narcissist,
Right.
and I'm afraid that I might be, like, an egomaniac. Like,
What does that really mean?
not an egomaniac, because...
For the audience, not for me.
We know full well. Okay.
I think I'm so obsessed with my personal story, you know? It's like, my story is, like, my
It's
narrative...
the story.
It's not that it's like a messiah complex thing, but I don't like. I want it for me. You know, it's not about others. It's about me in the end.
Like okay, so you're the most important in the universe, basically.
Yeah, and I don't. It's not that I go around thinking that, but when I look at my behavior and my actions, it's like, even at times, they seem very altruistic and positive. Like, I'm giving so much to everybody, but if you look really closely, it's tilted just ever slightly like more to me, you know?
I think you're overanalyzing that. I think a lot of people do that. They kind of just look out for number one most of the time. It's like, you do your actions, and yeah, it's like, I will help out other people, but in the end, I also want everything to work out for me, you know?
Right.
I'll take hits every once in a while. I don't mind. I don't mind taking hits, you know, for the greater good. But at the end of the day, I'm mostly
Concerned about yourself.
looking out for myself,
Yeah.
you know? No offense to anyone else.
Yeah, but I was going to ask you, but that's one thing, and I feel that way too. I think the world revolves. I don't really think the world revolves around me, but at the same time, I do. You know,
I revolve around there.
So I was going to ask you, but do you think? I think egomaniac. I think would be
A little too strong.
not necessarily, because that I think that would be part of. That, I think that's a quality of being an egomaniac. Probably, like every egomaniac probably feels that way, and I think I'm an egomaniac a lot of the time too.
Right.
So
the reason that I say that is because when I looked it up, like, egomania is like DSM-5, you know, like level, like
yeah,
psychological abnormality,
right.
characterized by certain features that I feel like if any of us actually did have them, it would be very obvious.
Right.
Like,
So,
an egomaniac is like a very obviously delusional person. Like, when
Right.
you confront them, and I feel like, are victims of our own delusions, but like at such a different scale.
Yeah. Maybe full blown egomaniac isn't fair, but maybe you're worried that you're approaching it a little too much.
Yeah, and the narcissism is definitely like a big part of it.
But do you like the one thing would be egomaniacal? Like, would be do you think that you're better than other people generally? Do you think, oh, I'm smarter than this person, I'm better than this person?
I try to like suppress it, but I do feel it inside of me. It's
Right.
like, you know, when something is incomplete, like, you know how you really feel about something.
Right. So you do feel that way.
So yes, yeah. Part of me like understands that I know full well that is not the truth.
But sometimes it might be true.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then the other problem is that like I'm collapsing reality down into a dimension. So I could look at you and I'm like, I can't even play drums, Tony.
Right.
I'm
Man,
a better
you
person.
ain't
I'm a
shit.
better person than you. It's that dimension. So I try not to like. I understand that too. That like, you know, certain dimensions like count for certain things at different times, and
Right.
you can't like.
But you blur the lines out of your own ego.
I just feel like
But you do catch yourself, though.
yes, and I work hard like in a conscious way to like resist that impulse. But the thing that's disturbing is that in an unconscious way, in like a kind of internally generated way,
Like by
like
instinct.
that's the word. My instinct
Is I'm
is
better.
wrong.
Yeah.
My instincts are wrong in a lot of ways, and it disturbs me that
So you
my
want to
instincts.
curb your instincts?
Yes,
I feel like
and then
but-
I'm sorry,
No, go ahead,
Tony.
go
And
ahead.
then the question then becomes, and this is like another connected to another issue I'm having. It's like I have these instincts, right? And they seem corrupted, and I'm so like torn about how much work I need to put in resolving those things. And
Yes.
it's like, how much of this do I accept as being myself? I deserve to be this way, versus there is pathology and darkness in my person, my character, that needs to be corrected. And it's hard to, like, the way I interact with people that are, like, close to me. Like, this is another problem. And I realize, like, I hold people I care about, like, at a distance. I hold people I care about, like, in a sort of, like, stasis. and I destroy people with like my lack of authenticity, like, and I try to keep them like locked up in a state of like
limbo.
yeah,
Why?
it's because if I was a truly good person, like I would reveal more of myself. I would continue to say the difficult things that need to be said. But because of like personal weakness, like I don't push things forward in the way that they should.
But what scares you about like saying what you need to say to somebody close to you, for example? What's the fear?
That I would destroy something that I have,
Like they're gonna walk away from you?
yeah, and that I would make things more difficult.
Right.
But I would make the world a worse place.
But the things you want to reveal, is it usually something that you want to tell them that you think they're doing wrong and you're afraid of their reaction, or is it that or something like that? Is it something like that?
It could be, yeah, something to that effect, or something about me that it's like that I feel like maybe that person doesn't understand,
right?
And it's like we're strangers if we don't understand this.
Oddly enough, I think maybe we're more alike than I thought, because I think I'm more vocal about being egotistical than you, but maybe you might be just as egotistical, or maybe even more. Who knows?
So you're both the same amount of not normal?
Maybe. Because I think maybe you just pretend better, because I'm more willing to run my mouth than you, I think. But your internal feelings, as you describe them, seem pretty similar, because I'll think often that I'm better than people, and I'll act out in that way, I'll be like, oh, this guy's an idiot, I'm way smarter than you, But a lot of the time, it's not fair, or I don't know if it's fair. And even if it is fair, let's say I am smarter than somebody, let's say. There's a lot of people smarter than me, obviously. And also, approaching somebody who's less smarter than me, if that happened to be true, that's just being an asshole, like that doesn't help anything. So it is toxic in a very real way, even if it's true, to operate, oh, I'm better than you,
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, I think maybe, well, you're definitely abnormal in many ways, I guess, but, but maybe it's just the difference in egomania is like, I'm more willing to say it, and you are more kind of under the radar.
Yeah, I think so. And it's funny because I've always admired your directness.
Well, you're the only one.
I've always I was like, wow, I wish that I could be more like Tony, in that I could just be so direct and kind of lethal with my attitudes.
Yeah.
But I always I always take the edge off things for people. I
yeah.
always soften things, massage things, and cushion people.
Yeah,
but you don't do that with people in the same way.
A lot of the time I don't.
I know
you're
you do.
massaging this.
Yeah. And so I've always envied that in you, and maybe that is the thing. Maybe it is my dark nature is just look at this guy, he's just expressing the shit out of his darkness, and here it's you're bottling yours up.
Do you think you have a fear of deeper connection?
I think so, and I read up on it, and it's I think there are because alright, this is kind of crazy. Did I tell you guys about the thing with my wife about her how I'm not missing her?
Yes.
And then I thought
or
about
any of us.
Yeah. Did I mention that on the podcast?
We might have talked about it at lunch.
Yeah,
all right. So I don't miss people.
Correct.
I have a problem missing people.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of what triggered it, because I had this thing with my wife, and then I started looking at myself, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? That I don't do that, because it seems that when I say this to people, when it seems as though you're supposed to miss people, right?
Yeah, it's bizarre not to miss somebody you supposedly care about.
And then it calls me to question, how much do I actually care about people? What am I doing? And that's how I discovered I must be so egotistical, because I put myself I'm so opportunistic with the way that I relate to people, or something like that, and that's not okay. And then I'm just why is that? Why am I dysfunctional in this way? And apparently, it could be a result of early child abuse.
But I was going to ask you about that. I know your parents. You mean when you say you were abused? I know your parents were drunks, and they're screaming, and obviously that's incredibly toxic for anyone, especially a kid.
Yeah.
But did they physically abuse you?
No, not really. We weren't beaten,
You weren't physically or sexually abused?
No.
Okay, that's good.
Just mentally abused.
Yeah.
The home environment.
That's still awful. I mean, there's no way to minimize that, I think. It's still awful, but I just wanted to be clear. Yeah.
Yes. No, and that is important. Yeah. So I was never sexually abused, and I was physically abused by my biological father, but I don't have any recollection of it. But I was
just people telling you.
Apparently, he was physically abusive.
Do you know to what extent, slap you or what?
I mean, I know that he beat me pretty good. Like on one occasion,
Oh, really?
like I could tell.
How old were you?
I think I was about 2 or 3 years
Oh
old.
wow!
And so he, I don't know, is this too dark?
No.
Should I tell this? Is it
Not
horrible?
No,
This
tell
child
it.
abuse
Yeah.
story.
Go for it.
But this is the other strange thing about like this part of the past is that it's all reported to me like secondhand account. Like I
Right.
have no conscious memory
Right.
of these events, but
Maybe it never happened.
people, you know, I don't even want to. It's that thought has occurred to me as well.
What, they lied to you?
or that things are-
Misremembering and piecing.
and
People have shitty
feeding
memory.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible.
And
yeah.
then there's been so many. I don't want to cut you off, but just a quick snippet. But there's
Yeah.
been like times when people like you talk to a psychologist or the other one that's not a psychologist,
Yeah.
a therapist, and you bring up they kind of like influence your thought, and you wind up
Right.
bringing up memories that never happened.
Right,
And then
that
you
could
kind
happen.
of like dwell on that,
Yeah.
which I'm always like afraid of going into like a thing and then
Yeah.
having repressed memories that never happened, and it's like, oh, this
That
is
could
why
happen,
I'm,
yeah.
This is why I'm fucked up because
Yeah,
that
yeah.
time I killed that kid. Sorry, but go on.
So the story, as it's reported to me, is that my biological father took me down to like the tracks and like lit off some fireworks,
Okay.
and that like we were having a good time. He was entertaining me with the fireworks, and then he got drunk, and then he beat me and told me never to like light fireworks.
Really?
Yeah, and so like that was the thing, and then like my mom tells me that it's like she was giving me a bath that night, and she saw my body like covered with like marks.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What happened?"
I doubt that she would lie about that, right?
Yeah,
But-
it seems unreasonable.
But maybe, yeah. I mean, even if you don't remember that, I mean, I'm sure that can have significant impact, even if you don't remember it.
Yeah.
If it is true, yeah. I mean, yeah, but even the other stuff that you do remember, that's fucked up enough that definitely messed with your head too. You know.
Right. And what I've read is that this is basically like a defense mechanism. It's like when the environment is too like chaotic, unstable, and threatening. As a defense mechanism, it's like the mind can just kind of like detach, and then you never like engage. You keep everything and everyone at a distance.
Because why connect when all those connections are bad connections?
Right, exactly.
So it's like you have that from then. So why would you do it now? Because you've survived X amount of time. You know.
Mhm.
I
doing
think we
this.
all have some of that too, you know. Because even
Yes.
it's funny because I felt that way at times, but because I felt like wrong growing up, part of the dream, especially in late teens, early 20s, was to really connect with somebody. I was always pushing that, you know, like tell me more, like let me get to the bottom of you, you know. And then, like in more recent times, what you're saying has become more cemented in me, and I feel like I shouldn't be that close to people. Now I'm not on that path as nearly as much anymore. You know, I try to keep people more distant, kind of like you're doing. I don't really let them in all the way. I'm more likely that I lie to them, you know, and all of that is because it seems hopeless to really fully connect with somebody, and I'm scared to get hurt, you know. So, like, oddly enough, more and more as an adult, as I get older, I'm becoming more disconnected from people, you know. But it started off like you're saying, shitty circumstances. So the shitty circumstances made me want to connect more for some reason. Like I wanted to love somehow, you know. But then after that, I got into the disconnection part, you know. So it's just weird. Yeah.
I think because you went hard on the connection bit and you didn't get any reciprocation, so you're like, fuck this all the way to the opposite side.
Yeah, the pendulum swung, yeah. So, that is, I mean, yeah, you're definitely, like, I can, just by looking at you, which sounds arrogant and everything itself, but I can tell that you're either consciously or subconsciously disconnected from people, or you're cold in a way, you know?
Yeah.
But it's, like, very apparent.
Do you think in general or
Just in general, it's very.
just
Do you
for
feel that way?
I mean, like, I've always thought you're a bit disconnected. I just assumed, like, you didn't like me as much. But then, like, this is, like, you know, younger days. Cause it's like, I didn't know you that well. I was like, I just assumed he's just, like, not that into me. You know? It's like, we don't all have to be, like, best friends and shit. But then,
Right.
as, like, time went on, I was like, he's just a bit off that way. Which is, like, fine. Everyone's, like, fucked up, you know?
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
way, so I don't really think of it.
I mean,
I just think of it as a thing.
I mostly have good things to say about you, and even that is amusing to me in a way, but it is
Right.
very apparent that you are that way. It's like just by looking at you.
How do you, what visual cues do I give
I
off?
don't get visual cues. I was talking about, like, social cues.
Maybe
Yeah.
your seriousness at times, the distant look in your eyes. Like it's palpable to me. You know?
Wow.
Damn, maybe you're more perceptive
Yeah.
to like physical damage
Or I'm
or emotional.
Psychological.
Psychological.
Or I'm crazy, but yeah, I think like
That's that egomania. in you.
Yeah.
It's like I can
You know me so
I can
well.
diagnose anyone. I have this tumor in my eye that gives me special powers.
but yeah, that is fucked up. You know, and all
It
these.
is, I'm sorry, just real quick. What the joke that Eric was making about like the spot in your eye that like,
Oh, yeah.
makes this visible. It is funny though because
But
like, I was talking to my wife. I was trying to explain the concept of Maya to her.
which is what?
The
Because
3D programming?
No,
I mean,
in the Vedic tradition, like in the Hindu tradition, like Maya is the creative force that like allows for the illusion of the existence as we see it. So it's like there's a cosmic truth to reality that everything is like connected, everything is one, all is like part of the Godhead or whatever. Like,
Right.
but we, because of Maya, perceive life as we're separate beings, and there's all these things that go on. And in the Hindu tradition, they call that Maya.
So is that a feeling?
it's not like consciousness?
No, it's tied into those things. It's like the magic. It means like magic or illusion or art.
Oh, the illusion that we're separate.
Yes.
Okay.
And that this like that the way the world is actually the way it is. But that's not true. That's Maya. It's just magic to create the impression that this is it. But the reality is a transcendental reality that we're all like bounded and we're all
Gotcha.
part of
Okay,
God,
so
right?
you- so you were
But
explaining this
I brought this up because
Right.
we were watching the new Star Wars movie.
Okay.
And I didn't like it. I thought it was very shitty. And I was saying it's like broken in these
Which
ways.
new one?
The
New one?
no, the
first new one?
The Last Jedi.
Is that the sequel?
I think that's the last new one.
Yeah, that's the most recent
Okay.
one. That one. So I thought it had problems, and I was explaining
You give it. Would you recommend that movie to a person to watch?
if they're a Star Wars fan, of course. But
Yeah,
I'm just
well.
disappointed, you know.
All right. So what did you say?
I don't like
But
it.
anyway, so I'm explaining this concept because the movie was broken, and I was saying in art in general, it should be like invisible, right? It should be invisible. And just now, you're talking about like he's got a spot in his eye, and it's like he can see through the Maya because there's an imperfection on the surface.
Mhm.
So because of the imperfection on the surface, it becomes clear that like
Okay.
you're beginning to question reality, and this is like a completely dramatic reading of like
Right.
what you just said, but I do think it's like kind of funny and interesting and telling
Yeah.
that. And in general, they find that trauma and difficulty does inspire the process of what Jung called individuation. So when you suffer at an early age,
You
it
become an individual.
yes, it forces you on a path of questioning.
Yes, I think that's very true. And I think, yeah.
So is that wrong? Is that non-optimal then
What?
to be an individual?
I
Or should you be a collective?
I think it's bad in the sense because, at least so far, because it's very hard to find success breaking away, you know? And so far, I haven't been able to do it, and neither have all of us, I guess, so far. But I think the fact that you want that so bad is difficult because it's so unlikely to happen, you know? And I think that's very difficult as opposed to somebody else who's, you know, more prone to being cool with how things are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, they're not going to suffer in that way as much, you know?
Right.
So I think that's a difficulty, in part, you know? I'm sure both of you know what I mean, right?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is, yeah, I think
I feel like I have more acceptance of life than you people, though. No offense.
it seems to me that I
There's
have,
more resistance on your end.
yeah, I think I have the least acceptance out of you two, but now I'm questioning that based on what you say because maybe it's more about that you hide it more.
Right.
Because I feel like maybe I'm just more prone to running my mouth, like I said, which obviously that's had catastrophic results multiple times. But yeah, maybe it's more about me just being, I just say it more or something, you know, because you're saying pretty fucked up things in a way, but they make perfect sense, you know?
But I'm also trying to be as honest as I can with you guys.
Yeah, you're making perfect sense, though. It's not like, nothing you're saying strikes me as like, where is that coming from, you know? Like, it all makes a lot of sense, you know?
This is like the darkest, like most
Yeah.
internal things that.
Yeah.
But that's why it's been such a difficult 2 weeks because it's like when I stopped drinking, that was like an easy thing to cast off because it was like bad. It was all bad.
Right.
So it's easy to cast off a thing that's clearly all bad. But now I realize like I'm not complete and that I have to like again like transform, you know? But then the question has come up, it's like, how do I need to transform now?
Especially because you take pleasure in the darkness of it.
Yeah, but this is a new discovery,
Right.
you know? Like, I always, like, lamented, but I think in a kind of fake way, you know? It was, like, a perverse satisfaction of, like, lamenting over it, you know?
Mhm.
Which I thought I expelled, like, I got into, like, rejecting that at a young age, but,
Right.
like, part of it stayed, you know?
Yeah,
Part of it is in my being.
Yeah, I feel that too, yeah.
And now it's, as I look at these things, though, it's like, I'm looking at, like, such a deep part of myself, and it feels like it needs to be changed, but I can't. I don't know. It's just like, this is why I need to see a counselor, because I can't, like, understand.
It's too deep rooted.
Yeah, it's like, I can't understand, like, how I'm supposed to, like, transform out of this. And it's, am I supposed to, like, destroy this part of myself? Maybe this is part of me that needs to stay. Maybe this is an important part of my being.
There's a confusion too, because, you know, all those horrible things, all those things are inspirational in a way. You know, I was reading somebody's post that I follow, like a therapist lady, and she was saying, you know, all the darkness that causes you so much pain, like somebody you love died or being abused, all these things that cause a lot of people so much pain, that is both the root of mental problems and very bizarre behavior, and the root of, you know, potentially amazing creativity and, you know, distinguishing yourself, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, then if you kill that, then what are you killing also? You're gonna kill the good and the bad if you kill it. So how do you massage it? But if, you know, yeah, like the question you're having is the question I have as well, and I'm sure Eric has as well. Like, you know, it's such a confusing way to navigate, you know?
Right.
And so difficult that a lot of the time I think we just kind of throw our hands up in the air, you know what, fuck it, and this is what I am. If it's not good enough for people, fuck it, you know? Like, it's hard to level with that, you know, because you don't know how to.
And I have this sense of my disconnection from people, and it seems to me that, like, I don't treat people with the right respect and appreciation they deserve. And then the question is, though, should I put myself out, basically, to go out of my way to create a stronger connection with people, because I know intellectually that I should be better to people? But then I defy my own inner nature by doing that.
Right.
And then is it what is greater, the violation against myself and lying to people, or is it a lie? I don't know. But you understand the problem, right?
Yes, yes.
So it's like, do I go out of my way to do better by you and put myself out and be inconvenienced? Or do I accept myself for who I am and leave my relationships as they are, let people see what it is and let them decide?
I say change. Because think about it this way. Think about it if it's your physical body instead of your mental. It's like, could I just accept my body for what it is, or should I go out and run every day and try to work out and make it better? It's like, that's not what I am. My body is this. This is how I feel. Should I put myself through this horrible displeasure that I don't want to do to achieve this thing? Is it worth it?
Yes.
And then apply that to the mind. And I think it's the same principles, you know.
But you think he should go out of his way to change that?
Yeah, if you see it as like a problem, at least give it a go.
You're right. Just fucking try.
Instead of, you know, you could philosophize it over and over again, but you're kind of just like spinning a wheel in your head and the world's still going by. So you might as well give things a shot and then see if it works. And like the Eddie Bravo podcast, he says something stupid, but I thought it was kind of profound in a sense. He was talking about, he was teaching his kids how to tie a shoe.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. That's a great, yeah.
So he was teaching his kid how to tie a shoe, and the kid was like frustrated, like he couldn't tie his shoe. It was like impossible to him. It was this crazy fucking like, you know, gargantuan task. And then he's like, look, it's easy, just like blah blah blah. You just gotta practice. It's like, look at me. It's like I can do it and not even look at it. I just tie my shoe, and the kid was like amazed. And it brought me back to being a child and like learning how to do that and remembering it was like a bitch in a sense. But now it's not even a problem I think about when I do it. It's just part of putting my shoes on. It's not even, or getting dressed or just getting out the door. It's not even a blip on any of, it's never been a thought like really after that. So I think we have these challenges that seem impossible or seem like out of our reach, but they're really not. Well, they might be, but they won't always be, you know, and they'll become easier with time, especially if you keep at it. Yeah, you're thinking about this stuff right now, which one would say is a good thing because you're kind of identifying the problem, and even if you don't have a solution, you're kind of subconsciously nudging yourself towards the solution. And this might be an exercise in trying to figure out, like, what is it that I really do want? Because maybe having more connections will bring this different perspective, and you could kind of like be like, aha, like this is something that I'm noticing a change and could impact me positively, even as getting rid of like certain aspects of myself that were negative and I was questioning, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and also just like I think that's a good point. But also one thing to add about the tying your shoe thing is that one point that he also made was that eventually it becomes just you do it without even thinking. Like a difficulty can become something that you just do. Like you were saying about the dishes thing. It's so difficult because you're lazy or you don't plan it properly or whatever. But then if you do it eventually, when you keep working at it, eventually you just almost subconsciously do it without even thinking about it, and you nail it. Obviously the dishes and tying your shoes is a good example, but obviously that's a lesser version of what you're trying to do is obviously going to be infinitely more difficult. But maybe you could do it, or maybe obviously all of us could do modify our characters for the better in that way,
But just like how you're trying to be present all the time,
yeah,
and you're thinking about like the autopilot versus not autopilot thing. I think it's the same thing, and I've been doing it more too. I've noticed it more when I'm driving because I get road rage a lot, so I've been trying to like get into that state, and I still get that road rage a lot of times, but I notice my brain like catching myself more. So the more I do it, the more I catch myself, and I haven't completely gotten rid of it, but I think it's something. Like, I see progress after a while. So yeah. I think, like, the time to shoot things, it eventually does become, like, a non-issue because you do it so much. It doesn't even become a task. It just becomes the way you are,
What about you, Eric? What are some toxic narratives you tell yourself?
Oh, man, they're all good. I don't know. I think how you guys talking about you were talking about the greater narrative? It's like, I have a hard time seeing the novel. It's like my life is basically a series of haikus. Like that's how I kind of picture it.
That's a good way of saying it. You have a hard time looking at the bigger picture?
It's not that. It's just I've been disappointed and let down, and things have changed so many times, and nothing ever works out when I plan for the big picture.
Right.
So I stop planning for the big picture because I feel like it's this kind of pointless.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, that's what I tell myself.
Right.
And that's what I use as an excuse to like
be
not
lazy
do
or something.
Certain things or be lazy or just
right.
not work towards a certain goal, or even making decisions about like future things. It's like, how can I even make a decision like that now when that's like so far ahead? How can I even like predict what my mindset will be when said event is going to happen? Like, how am I going to think that maybe I'm not going to want to do it, or maybe my mind will change? And it's like, how can I even like possibly do that? It seems like so ridiculous. It just seems like nonsense to even try to think that far ahead. But in the state of like not planning ahead, I also don't do what I feel like I should have been doing. So it's kind of like this weird struggle I'm trying to.
I know what you mean, because there's no clear goal. You kind of get into why it doesn't really matter what I do in that moment now because the goal isn't clear anyway.
Yeah, because I feel like the moment is the moment, right. Which it's a very psychedelic thought. Yeah. But I don't think it's useful all the time, Yeah. So
you kind of sabotage your own future, basically.
In a way, yeah. I look for almost an immediate pleasure. I try to obviously look out. I'm not like completely, like
right.
I could just be beaten off right now if I really wanted to, I guess. But I'm not that extreme.
Right.
But I am. I feel like the future just is like nonsense to me.
I think that so we're all in a way doing things. We're all telling ourselves toxic ways in a sense to escape from something, right? But at the same time, like you're saying, you've been really disappointed by things, so it makes it hard to piece the future together in a useful way, right? And we've all been disappointed by things, and I've been very disappointed by things. But then the question becomes then, like, why did things go wrong so much? It's like what I'm trying to get at here is that maybe like, are you right to assume that things are gonna go wrong or not work out? So who cares? Like, there's so much evidence for things going wrong. Sometimes I feel like maybe it is true that life mostly sucks. Maybe it's not. Although it's not useful to think that. Maybe that is the case. And then that's worries me to some degree.
Well, the first edict of Buddhism is that life is suffering.
Right.
A lot of religious traditions do hold that life is suffering.
Yeah, like that worry is like what you're saying. Like maybe you are right to do that. Like maybe it just really is a bust.
And I feel guilty though thinking that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's wrong. Like there has.
So your conscience is telling you that's wrong for some reason.
Yeah, but my mind is telling me I'm right. So I have like this kind of.
Because you relate back to your evidence, right?
Internal spinny bit. Yeah, it's like that constant conflict that's like annoying as fuck.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a bummer.
Damn it.
And then I also feel like I have a little bit of what you have, but not as bad. But I think I have a problem like connecting with like people all the way. Like, I never go all the way.
I see that in. I was gonna say now that you. I see that in you too. To me, it's
saying it now.
Yeah, where's your eye tumors though?
Eye beauty mark. Yeah, it's not a tumor, but but yeah, I feel the same way about you. Similar to him, that you're also palpably distant, like there's something in you that exactly what you're saying, you're scared, I guess, to fully connect or connect deeper, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's palpable in you as well.
Yeah. I self-diagnosed. I don't know how true that is, but I don't want to go to a
and
dude.
I believe that perhaps we are friends and we get along so well because maybe like it's in all of our natures to be that way. And that's maybe we feel comfortable in each other's company because we're like, there's this unspoken like sense of how, I don't know, cold we are or whatever.
But do you guys think that about me? Do I come off as I'm disconnected or trying to keep you away?
Not to me, but I feel like I would have that reaction. You would have that reaction to like most other people, I think. I don't get that off of you, but just from your general like, talking and complaining about people. General hatred for the populace. Like,
status quo.
It's like we're mostly the exception, I think.
What do you think? Do you think I come off as like I'm trying to keep people distant? Or do you think what you're saying?
For me, my whole like caricature of you has always been like you're like a purifying fire, and it's like you're not gonna keep people distant, but you're gonna like test them immediately. That you're always testing everyone and everything to see like how strong it is, and you're always doing away with like those things that are like impure to you.
Right, but so to you, not so much a distant thing.
I think, yeah, you will just get rid of those things that are not like pure, And I think as a result there is a distance because not many things like are up to your standard, and so you don't keep a lot of things, you don't keep a lot of people, like, it's a very minimal existence you have that is characterized by, like, huge gaps, because between you and the average person, or the average anything, there's a huge gap, because you're only inviting the
sublime.
Yeah.
There is truth to that. Well, thanks. I take that as a compliment, I guess.
Another thing I admire about your character.
Please, more.
That egomania, something to aspire to. Someday I'll be as egomaniacal as you. Flaunt it.
Wait, what was another thing you were going to say?
No, that was pretty much it.
One thing is better than nothing, I guess.
But it's always been like, I feel like in our friendship over the years that you've always been like more of the initiator of like getting together. Yeah. And hanging out and doing things like that. And like, I think in a lot of cases, like, same thing with you, it's like, with a lot of my relationships, like, if it wasn't for the other person, the relationship would probably not even exist, And, and that's an issue.
I feel that sometimes as well.
Yeah. That's definitely true. I would suspect, well, you just said it, but I would, even before you said it, I would have suspected.
He makes it sound like he did something.
You would have suspected that, I would have suspected that you felt that way about him, Very interesting. I think this podcast started off good, I think it got amazingly good. But of course, this is extremely biased.
This is coming from an egomaniac.
Coming from a few egomaniacs.
That's how good we all are.
Best thing ever done.
That's a good.
We could finally have a podcast and say literally the best podcast ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty egomaniacal to say. Eric, do you think you're egotistic?
Like that I'm the all-important...
That you're better than people, yeah, and you're the... Yeah.
I think I'm better than some people when I interact with them. Like, man, what a fucking shitty person. But I don't necessarily go around, like, judging people.
But you don't generally feel
it's
like
you're
better.
negative two Jeffs, you know.
Crap.
But you don't think generally you don't feel that generally you're better than others. Do you generally feel that? I'm asking.
I don't think so. I'm trying to think about it. I don't really think so.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But maybe I am better than others, and maybe I should see that myself and become a...
You're too humble.
Become a
Take after
dictator.
Tony.
I could be a dictator, you know?
Yeah, that's the issue. There is like you were saying, we were saying before, there's the basking that I do of basking in the glory of feeling that way, you know?
Mm.
And that's like,
That's
and it
naughty.
encourages it, you know?
That's perverse.
Yeah.
I feel like it is, you know? It's you're worshipping like a dark presence. It feels like, like you're feeding like... It's like Little Shop of Horrors or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I try to have love for the common man, more or less.
For the hood.
For the most, I mean, like I could definitely get turned off very easily. It's not like I'm a peace and love guy.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I'm trying to approach it that way.
To get back to the streets.
More often than not, I think.
Right. Yeah. Thing is, a lot of this, I'm sure, even I guess it's. Although, like I do run my mouth, like I said, a lot of it for me is still internal. You know, I don't say. Although the way I talk, it may seem like I don't hold back, but I actually do hold back a lot. You know.
Horrifying thought.
Little
You ain't seen nothing.
Well, you guys have seen most of it. You know, I would say not so much with you guys, I guess, but to the general public,
Yeah.
That's with you guys less, but
Yeah,
I still
you can't
hold.
go all out with them.
Yeah, I still hold back with you guys, but definitely a lot less. You know, it's pretty close to unfiltered.
I'd say about the same.
I mean, just before that's what I'm trying to like follow your lead with that though. It's like if somebody's got to know about this shit, it's got to be you people, you know.
Yeah.
And I can't tell anybody this stuff, but it ought to be you guys that.
You haven't told your wife this, right?
To some extent, I have, but not as much because
She's crazy too.
She is. we had a really good talk about that. And you guys want to hear something really crazy that
Hell
I started? I tried.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Threesomes.
Should I? Yeah, threesomes. How much time is left on this podcast?
I don't know. Whatever. I guess.
All right. Here's a little exercise, and I'm good. I've actually been trying to do it with you guys too.
Okay.
When you talk to somebody, act like you just met them.
Okay.
Act like you like. I did this thing with my wife yesterday. It's like where we sat down to have tea, and it's like, oh, this is nice. We're gonna actually just talk. And then I don't know why I thought. I guess because I've been thinking about memory and narrative and things like that. And I was like, what would happen if I just pretended like she's a stranger and we're just meeting for the first time and we're having a cup of tea and we're talking and I don't know her story. I don't know who she is.
Right.
And do this. Have a conversation with somebody like that. It's really interesting.
Why are you doing that?
Because I carry so much of my own like judgments.
Yeah.
And it's like when I'm talking to her a lot of times it's like everything she's saying, like as soon as it comes out of her mouth, like I take it and I file it under, oh, you're doing this again, you're doing that again, you're doing this again. And I'm taking everything she's saying and I'm confirming everything that I think about her.
I'll do that too. Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm going to suspend all that. And it's like, and even when she tells me things that I already know, like if she mentions something about a friend of hers and there's a particular backstory with that I understand, I'm going to pretend like I don't know. And I'm going to let her tell me those details so I can try and hear this again. And it's a really interesting thing to do. You gain a complete... Firstly, it makes the conversation riveting because it's like, it feels, because you do know this person, they're being really honest with you, you know, more or less. But that was the point too, I thought, because I'm like, I don't actually know you, and you don't actually know me. And none of us really know each other at all. So let's stop pretending like we know each other. We don't know each other. I don't understand anyone.
It just got weird in there. Who are these strangers?
It is true.
There's a lot of truth to that because there is so much like put on. You know?
Right, and the put on though is not from the other person. It's not the other person who puts it on. You put it on them. You're making them
At times, yes. I guess it's both, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you
but we
can
do a
chill.
lot of that.
Yeah,
is
yeah,
the
yeah,
point.
yeah.
And I was thinking, like, who is this person without me doing that? Let me allow her to be herself.
This is like, is it quantum physics when they go to measure the thing, but through the measuring you actually like disrupt the thing you're trying to measure?
The field collapse. Well, yeah, and the observer effect.
So I guess it's like that with other people because they're kind of reflecting a bit off you too. They can't help but.
That's a good point.
And you kind of, curb your personality. At least I do. I don't know if this is a fucked up thing, but not that I do it consciously, but I tend to become a little bit different. I'm still the integral, like main parts are still me, but I definitely kind of change shape a little bit every time, depending who I'm talking to.
Yeah, I do that too. I hate doing that, but I do that too. Yeah.
I don't mind doing it. I just a natural thing, but it still happens though.
Yeah. I think basically essentially you're saying that you gotta give people that you think you know a new chance to disappoint you all over again.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's not all good, but at least.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a strange experiment to like let go of your past. That's what you're doing. You're letting go of the past for a little bit. You're seeing the world, or trying. But it was easy to do. I mean, maybe here's my ego mania. Maybe it's because like I do like observe my consciousness a lot, and like it's getting to the point now where it's not just observing the objects or contents of consciousness, but the states of consciousness. How one state of consciousness feels different from another, and so like that's allowing me to kind of branch out a little more and do these different kind of like conscious experiments with myself, where it's like. If I kind of use a different lens to see the world, how does the world look now?
Yeah.
And it was very convincing.
Interesting. Well, on that note, I think we should get going with the other stuff.
Yes.
Right. Very good conversation.
Yes. Thank you to all of our listeners out there.